links.
Our reconstruction begins at 11:20 a.m. on the 10th of September last year at Kensington Tyre Motors in West London. That Saturday, Janice Weston set out to collect the spare wheel of her Alfa Romeo Alfetta car. This wheel was to become the vital missing link in the search for her murderer. Janice was seen shopping near her home at Holland Park at around midday. She was a solicitor and had told friends she'd be completing work for a client and staying in London over the weekend. Janice had been married for just 15 months to property developer Tony Weston. Together they'd bought this country house in Clopton near Northampton, which they were converting into luxury apartments. This particular weekend, with her husband away in France on business, Janice called into her office at Lincoln's Inn. The exact time isn't known, but it was sometime on Saturday afternoon. Janice was a partner in the firm Charles Russell & Company, and at 36 was at the peak of her professional career. She was successful, popular, and led a busy social life. She'd gained a reputation as an international expert on company law, and was also completing a book on a specialist interest of hers, computer data protection. On that Saturday afternoon, an eyewitness reports seeing Janice frequently looking out of the office window, as if she were expecting someone.
Hello, Charles Russell. I'm afraid he's not. Can I help you?
Police know that she was still in the office at 4:45 p.m. because she took a phone call for a colleague. Piecing together the evidence, police believe that later that afternoon, Janice returned to her basement flat in Addison Avenue, West London, and made herself a meal. But then, contrary to what she'd said to friends about staying in London that weekend, she evidently decided to leave. She gathered together the remnants of her meal, which included a partly drunk bottle of wine and a half-eaten loaf of bread, and with an overnight bag and a purse containing £37, she set off. Yet strangely, she left behind her handbag. It contained her chequebook and all her credit cards, but she did take with her the keys to the country house in Clopton. It was unusual for her to set off for the manor house alone, if indeed she did set off alone. And it would have been very uncomfortable there with the renovations in progress. Driving north up the A1 towards Northampton on Saturday night, the traffic was heavy. Police believe it must have been 9 p.m. or later by the time she reached the Huntingdon stretch of the A1. Just north of Huntingdon, only 16 miles from her country home, she pulled into a layby. Later, forensic evidence found traces of grease on her fingernails, which suggests that the reason she pulled in here was to change the wheel of her car. But Janice Weston wasn't alone. Police still don't know whether her killer followed her into that lay-by or had been in the car with her. Janice Weston was killed by a series of blows to the head, so ferocious that it took police 3 days to identify her. The next day, Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, David Hurst is cycling along the A1 on a 12-hour time trial for the Luton Wheelers Cycling Club. As usual, he'd arranged with his wife to give him refreshment along the route. It so happened she chose to wait for him in that same lay-by where Janice Weston's car had been that previous night.
Yeah, fine. Very cold.
Why don't you pass?
No,
Terrible.
no, I should be all right. Be all right. I'm just going to go here.
At almost the same time, just 23 miles away at Royston, a man called into CB Car's garage with an apparently straightforward request.
You make number, please.
No, I'm sorry, we don't, but they do in the store for a
He made his way to Auto Spares, where his purchase was to become one of the most mysterious aspects of the whole case.
Do you do number, please?
Yes.
How long?
A few minutes, so in between customers.
Good.
Okay. A pen
Yeah.
and number.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, I'll give you a minute.
Okay.
He didn't state what number he wanted, but handed over a scrap of paper. That number was already on police files. It was Janice Weston's number. Redhill Street in Camden, northwest London. 4 days after Janice Weston's death, her Alfa Romeo Alfetta car was found abandoned on a parking meter. Inside, police found the keys to her London flat and to the country home. They also found her purse. Nothing had been stolen. But when they opened the boot of the car, the spare wheel was missing. The tyre that she'd collected that Saturday morning had now been put on the rear near side of the car. But the other wheel was gone and has never been traced.